Good morning. My name's Robin Vaughn, and I am from DCO's Office of Accountability. Thank you for joining us for our monthly rotating topic training. Today we're going to discuss writing a grant application. There's going to be many links and resources posted in the chat during this presentation. Links will also be located in the slides. This session is being recorded. A copy of the recording and the chat will be sent out to registered attendees. There will be a time at the end of the presentation for questions, but please feel free to utilize the chat and type your questions in there as well. Okay, in this presentation, we will walk you through the entire grant application process, starting with where to find a grant opportunity, or as we call it, a notice of funding opportunity. It's also referred to as a NOFO. We will talk about the steps that you will take to prepare your application. We will share some important tips for writing the grant application, including key points that applicants should address. We will talk about the required documentation to be submitted with your application, where and how to submit your application package, and what the merit review process looks like. Finally, we will wrap up with some tips and resources before answering your questions. Let's start off the process by learning and understanding where your entity can find the grant opportunity that fits your entity's needs. Notice of funding opportunities, or NOFOs, are legally required documents that outline the goals, opportunity, eligibility, and process in applying for the grant. DCEO has a dedicated website that houses all our available funding opportunities. If you cannot locate an opportunity that fits the entity's specific project goals, you can also look for funding opportunities in the Catalog of State Financial Assistance, or CSFA. The CSFA listing is a listing of every available funding opportunity across all state agencies. Links to both sites are in the slide and also in the chat. On the DCEO Apply for Funding page, you can locate funding opportunities specific to DCEO's mission. Here you can browse program titles, program summaries, and application deadlines. You can click on a grant opportunity to access additional information, including funding source, program contact, and award range. This page also contains the NOFO supplement and all documents necessary to complete the application. The second location for finding grant opportunities is the Catalog of State Financial Assistance, or CSFA. Here you can browse grant opportunities across all state of Illinois agencies, such as the Illinois Department of Transportation, the Illinois Department of Natural Resources, the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency, and others. The page is searchable, allowing you to enter terms or phrases relevant to your interests. There is also an option to subscribe to a weekly mailing list to receive updates on new grant opportunities. We recommend signing up for this list. A link for the sign up is in the slide, but it's also in the chat. You can view a list of active grant opportunities and browse projects currently accepting applications. You can view programs operated by specific agencies, and you can browse active programs that may not currently be offering a funding opportunity, but may have one in the future. Click on a grant program title to view additional information such as funding amount, program contact, and where to download the full NOFO. The NOFO structure is uniform. However, the contents can vary from program to program. The NOFO contains extremely important information. Part A of the NOFO discusses the intent of the program. Here you will learn why the state agency has bookmarked these funds and the desired end goal of the program. What community does this benefit? What industry would it benefit? Stuff like that. Next, if there is any history for a grant program, you'll learn about it here. For instance, if the governor's office announced a new initiative early in the year, this section will discuss the initiative and the events that set it into motion. Finally, the program description covers the performance goals and measures of the opportunity. This will outline the objective of the program, what is expected of the grantee, and how success of the grantee will be measured. Part B addresses where grant funds are coming from, which office, state agency, or if the grant is federally funded. Part B will also indicate the projected start date of the grant program and the span of time that the grant will be performed. This can vary from program to program. This section will explain the project amount that the applicant can expect to receive and whether there will be multiple awards distributed. For example, the entire grant can be $5 million, but the intent to award could be between $100,000 and $200,000 per grantee. This also gives applicants an idea of how competitive a grant will be. Finally, an important item to review is the pre-award and application costs. This section addresses whether the grantee is allowed to start spending grant funds before receiving the grant funds. We refer to this as pre-award costs. They are often unallowable, so please make special note to review this section. Part C covers eligibility. Eligibility information addresses pre-qualification. Pre-qualification is required to apply for and receive grant funds. We will cover pre-qualification and its requirements later in this training. This section also outlines the type of organizations that are eligible to receive the award. It is extremely important to review this section thoroughly, as it can save you time in the long run. Part D. Application and submission information identifies the point of contact for the grant program. You will contact this person with your specific questions about the grant program. Content and form of the application submission outlines what additional required documents are to be submitted with the grant application. We will go further into detail on these documents later in this presentation. This section identifies the date and time of the application submission deadline, in addition to where the materials are to be submitted. If an intergovernmental review is applicable, it will be addressed in this section. Finally, this piece will cover if there are restrictions on how funds are to be spent. And if there are other submission requirements, they will be covered here as well. Part E Application review information will demonstrate how the application materials are to be reviewed and scored. This section addresses exactly how your grant application will be graded. You are encouraged to use the criteria identified in this section to build your application. Successful applicants use the information provided in this section to associate their entity's abilities with each of the outlined items. In this section, you will also find when you can expect the announcement of the state award. But please note, the review time for grant applications can take months, and there is no guaranteed date of award announcement. When the merit review process is complete, those awarded will be notified with a Notice of State Award, or NOSA. If there are any administrative or national policy requirements, they will be covered here. And finally, once a grant is awarded, the grantee will be required to complete regular periodic reporting. The grantee will also be subject to monitoring and will be required to complete an annual audit report for every year in which they have expenditures and active awards. The grant agreement will also contain information about these requirements. Section G of the NOFO contains the contact information for the state awarding agency and other information if applicable. Okay, so now we understand the NOFO, so now we're going to talk about preparing for a grant. Applicants are required to register themselves and their organization in the GATA Grantee Portal. GATA stands for the Grant Accountability and Transparency Act, which is a landmark legislation that increases accountability and transparency in the use of grant funds while reducing the administrative burden on both the state agency and grantees through the adoption of federal grant guidance and regulations codified in 2 CFR 200 or the Uniform Requirements. The GATA Grantee Portal is where grantees will complete required reporting and assessments. Within the portal, grantees can manage organization access, find contact information for their cognizant agency, elect an indirect cost rate, accept notice of state awards, and review their pre-qualification status. There is also a GATA New User Guide, which provides step-by-step instructions to registering the GATA Grantee Portal. Links for the GATA Grantee Portal and the GATA New User Guide are provided in the chat. To create a GATA Portal account, visit grants.illinois.gov/portal and select Create an Account. Once an individual user account has been created, you will return to GATA to either begin a new registration for your organization if they are not already in GATA, or you will request access to your organization's portal if they are already set up in the system. To help, we recommend reviewing the grantee portal frequently asked questions. This can be insightful as it addresses common sticking points or problems encountered by other grantees. A link to the fact sheet is in the chat. Also helpful is the GATA Learning Management System. In partnership with the University of Illinois Springfield, DCEO now offers self-paced learning courses on the navigating and use of the GATA Grantee Portal. You can learn more about this course by clicking on the link in the chat. Once you have a GATA ID, you will be able to view and manage your organization's pre-qualification status. The state of Illinois has defined a set of requirements for all organizations seeking to receive grant funding. Entities who wish to do business with the state of Illinois must meet these requirements to be deemed qualified and in good standing. Pre-qualification determines that an organization has met all legal requirements, obtained all necessary registrations, and has a proven track record of compliance. Pre-qualification status must be maintained for the entire lifespan of the grant program, or if your organization wishes to continue to apply for and receive grant funds. A video tutorial on pre-qualification is available in our video training and resources library. A link for this site is provided in the chat. Our first item on the pre-qualification list in the GATA grantee portal is SAM.gov. SAM.gov is the System for Award Management, an official website of the U.S. government. Here, grantees must register to do business with the U.S. government. Registration is required to apply for federal grant awards. Through SAM.gov, grantees will receive a unique entity identifier, also known as a UEI. Your UEI is a 12-character alphanumeric identifier used in SAM.gov and other federal government systems as a way to identify a unique entity. Registration with SAM.gov must be renewed annually. In SAM.gov, entities are given the choice to have their accounts set to public or private. Illinois Administrative Code requires grantees set their accounts to public. A public registration means that when your registration is renewed annually, the updated registration expiration will automatically update in the GATA grantee portal, making it easier for you to stay in pre-qualified status under this category. Public accounts are searchable and viewable by authenticated users such as the technical support team with DCEO and other administrative entities, making it easier to identify potential issues. SAM.gov is a two-step process. The first step is to sign up. The second step is to register. It's important to note and understand these are different steps. Grantees are required to have a federal employer identification number, also known as a FEIN. This number is used to identify a business entity. The IRS provides FEINs free of charge. FEIN applications can be submitted online, by fax, or by U.S. mail. Timeframes for receiving your FEIN depend on the application method used, online being the quickest, while U.S. mail will take a little bit longer. Verification of the organization's FEIN will be confirmed automatically in GATA. A grantee can be placed on the FEIN lock list for non-compliance, such as delinquent audit reports. FEIN lock means that the grantee cannot execute or modify a grant agreement with DCEO or receive funds from DCEO without written and approved justifications. Any grant disbursements made to the organization from awarding agency will be blocked until the locking reason is rectified. The Federal Excluded Parties List identifies entities excluded from receiving federal contracts, subcontracts, and other types of federal or non-federal financial assistance or benefits. Exclusions can also be referred to as suspensions or debarments. Grantees are placed on this list for non-compliance and will continue to be and will not be removed until certain conditions are met or until issues are remedied. Organizations on this list are banned from doing business with any federal grant for an infinite period. The federal excluded parties list is available and searchable in sam.gov. To do business with the state of Illinois, entities must be registered with the Illinois Secretary of State and obtain a certificate of good standing. The certificate of good standing demonstrates that the entity exists and that it is in full compliance with state regulations. The Secretary of State's website has a special section of business resources that can assist organizations to obtain their certificate of good standing. Entities that must meet these requirements include corporations, not-for-profit corporations, limited partnerships, limited liability companies, and limited liability partnerships. A link to the Secretary of State's website is provided in the chat. A very important part of pre-qualification is the Illinois Stop Payment List. This list includes all entities who have been found to be non-compliant with their grant agreement or grant policies. These organizations cannot receive grant funds, execute or modify a grant agreement with any state agency across all of Illinois. Most of the time, grantees can remediate the non-compliance issue and can be removed from the Illinois Stop Payment List. In these instances, grantees are placed on the Illinois Stop Payment List in temporary status. However, if the issue is a very serious or of fraudulent nature, with due process, the grantee will be placed permanently on the Illinois Stop Payment List. There is a help button located next to the Illinois Stop Payment List field in the pre-qualified section of the GATA portal. If your organization is shown as on list, you can click on this button to identify the agency that placed you on the Illinois Stop Payment List and who to contact to discuss next steps in remediating the issue. You may also contact the technical support team with the Office of Accountability for more information by emailing ceo.granthelp@illinois.gov. The Illinois Department of Healthcare and Family Services, or DHFS, has authority to impose sanctions on entities and individuals. Those organizations on the Illinois DHFS sanction list are not eligible for Medicaid reimbursement. The sanction is the result of administrative action taken against the organization in question when found to be in violation of administrative rule, civil law, or criminal offense. Types of sanctions include suspensions, termination, barment, or exclusion. And now we get to the meat of it, writing the grant application. Before you begin your grant application, you need to review the criteria outlined in the NOFO. Grant applications are reviewed by a merit review committee based on need, capacity, and quality. Need identifies stakeholders, facts, and evidence that demonstrates the proposal supports the grant program's purpose. You can demonstrate that your proposal is in alignment with the purpose of the grant program by documenting specific community information or distinct advantages or disadvantages to locations. Documenting purpose can also include letters of support from impacted stakeholders. You can expand on any of this information by including unique data points. For example, explaining specific community information can encompass a wide range of information about local populations, businesses, infrastructure, and environments. This can also include demographic data, health statistics, education levels, employment rates, housing conditions, and environmental factors. Some popular places to look for this data include the American Community Survey or ACS, and the US Bureau of Labor Statistics. Those links are in the chat. Capacity covers the ability of an entity to execute the grant project according to program requirements. Capacity can be documented and defined in many ways. For example, physical capacity can mean the entity's physical location, staffing levels, or equipment that can handle the tasks necessary to complete the project's goals. Capacity is also the entity's experience level or the demonstrated ability of the entity's staff to achieve specific program goals. Quality. Quality entails the totality of features and characteristics of a service, project, or product that indicates its ability to satisfy the requirements of the grant program. Quality can be documented through many facets, including a robust business plan or a detailed, clear, and responsible budget. Quality can be demonstrated in the content of the application by providing specific details that clearly outline your entity's ability to complete the identified project in alignment with the program goals. Quality is documented through demonstrated achievements. A quality application is thorough, detailed, and concise. In writing your application, it's important to demonstrate your passion and knowledge of the program. But we encourage applicants to be cognizant of their use of jargon. What does jargon mean? When discussing a topic well known to you, it can be easy to slip into language or verbiage that others may not be familiar with. This can include technical terms or acronyms. If introducing such language, it is important to provide definitions or explanations of those terms to make it clear to the reviewer what is being discussed. That said, it is important to be descriptive and to explain yourself clearly and thoroughly. Assume that the person reading your application knows absolutely nothing about your organization or the project. With this in mind, let them in on all the key details of your program. Remember to proofread or enlist a trusted source to edit your application. Not only will this ensure that you have covered every detail, but it will also help eliminate the occurrence of spelling and grammatical errors. Maintain objectivity when describing your project. For example, a sentence like, "This is an amazing opportunity for our well-deserved community," raises more questions than it answers. How can one quantify the word amazing? And what evidence is there to support that the community is well-deserving? Finally, applicants are encouraged to back up their proposals by citing sources, facts, research, and studies. You can also provide examples of similar programs and the documented benefits of their success. A common misstep in the grant application process is the failure to submit all required documents or by submitting these documents unsigned. The NOFO clearly identifies the documentation that is to accompany your grant application. These are to be completed and submitted with your application in the location identified in Part D of the NOFO. Before the documents are submitted, double check that they contain the necessary and appropriate signatures. Let's talk about the required documents to be submitted with your application. The program application is a document in the application package. This document is where applicants draft their narrative explaining their intended project. The program application is unique to each notice of funding opportunity. When completing the program application, use as much detail as possible in your narrative to seamlessly connect the dots between your project's objectives and your entity's ability to satisfy the requirements of the program. Remember to refer to the application review criteria from the NOFO supplement to edit and expand on your answers. The program application will sometimes have a separate document attached that provides instructions on how to complete the program application. Please review these instructions thoroughly. The program application is also sometimes called the project narrative or attachment A in your list of documents on the NOFO summary page. Aside from the program application, there may be other program-specific documents attached to a NOFO supplement for the applicant to complete. Examples of some of the program-specific documents you may see attached to the NOFO include demographic disclosures, supportive schedules, entity certifications, or authorized designee certifications. As you can see in the picture above, the study certification for this grant was requested. That's a program-specific document. While the program NOFO may require documents specific to the program's goals, there are standard documents that are applicable to every grant application. These documents include the Uniform Grant Application, the Uniform Budget Template, mandatory disclosure, and the Conflict of Interest disclosure. In the following slides, we will review these documents. The Uniform Application is a mandatory document. Its purpose is to collect entity identifying information and the applicant's proposed terms for the grant. The first page of the Uniform Application will be completed by the program staff and is generally locked to edits. The remaining document will be completed by the applicant. Identifying information includes the entity's UEI and FEIN number. The primary address of the entity is also required. The Uniform Application asks for the applicant's primary contact information. The applicant contact information is split into two separate sections. One section is the primary contact for the administrative or business staff role. The other section contains the primary contact information for the program or project staff role. Other necessary information to be included in the Uniform Application includes areas impacted by the project, the proposed term or timeline for the project, and the requested funding level for the project. The Uniform Application must be signed and certified by the entity's authorized representative. The Uniform Budget Template is a Microsoft Excel workbook to be completed by the applicant based on the project's proposed financial needs. The budget template needs to align with the funding request stated in your program application and uniform grant application. When completing the required budget template, grantees have a chance to demonstrate responsible spending and planning. The budget template is the backbone of the proposal. It is important to take your time when completing the budget and reach out to the program contact identified in the NOFO to address any questions or confusion. To ensure accuracy, grantees may also find it helpful to obtain quotes for goods and services while completing the budget. Acquiring quotes doesn't mean that a grantee should start spending funds before they even have them. The first tab in the budget template contains a detailed list of instructions. Section A is a summary page. It will auto-populate with a total of all values entered in the other subsequent tabs. Section A is locked to edits, with the exception of the entity information on the top of the page. All other tabs should be completed individually within the budget template. A narrative should be drafted in each tab that expands on the use and needs for each expense. The mandatory disclosure and the conflict of interest. The mandatory disclosure requires a potential awardee disclose to the state awarding agency all violations of state or federal criminal law involving fraud, bribery, or gratuity violations potentially affecting the award. The conflict of interest disclosure is a requirement of an applicant to disclose any conflicting relationships within the organization's officers, directors, agents, employees, and/or their spouses or immediate family members who use their position for a purpose that is motivated by a desire for personal gain. So as I mentioned previously, application packages may require additional documents depending on the program. That is why it is imperative to closely review the section of the NOFO that addresses what documents are to be included and how to find them. Once you have completed your application documents and pre-qualification requirements, it's time to submit. Located in Section D of the NOFO supplement, you will find the mode of submission. In this example, the application packet will need to be submitted by the deadline via Smartsheet link. The link to the application is embedded in the Notice of Funding Opportunity under Section D, Part 4, Submission Dates and Times. Applicants are able to hover over the link and click to access the Smartsheet. Applicants will then be taken to the Smartsheet form for their grant program. They will be prompted to check a box confirming they understand they are to be pre-qualified by the application deadline. You will see there is also an option to review resources to learn more about pre-qualification. From there, applicants will enter their individual information. This means your first and last name, phone number, and email address. The next section is to capture the applicant's organizational information. Under applicant legal name, you'll enter the organization's legal name, followed by the EIN or employer identification number, the TIN or tax identification number, the UEI or the unique entity identifier, and the organization's address, including city, county, and zip code. Finally, applicants enter demographic information. A drop-down menu is available that applicants can choose from. The star next to each item includes those from previous slides indicates that these fields are required. Applicants will be unable to submit if these fields are left blank. However, applicants may elect to choose preferred not to answer or NA for each question. So now it's time to upload your completed application materials. You'll need to click on the link or click on the checkboxes to ensure all documents have been uploaded. This also serves as your final check to ensure you've included all documents. Files can be dragged and dropped into the box shown here, or you can click Browse Files to select items from your computer. You can upload up to 10 files in this Smartsheet. Applicants can check the box shown here if they wish to receive a copy of the information they entered in the form. An automated email will be sent to your inbox that you can save for your records. And finally, don't forget to hit the submit button. Once the grant application window closes, applications are processed through merit review. Part E of the Notice of Funding Opportunity demonstrates how grant opportunities are to be reviewed and what criteria the applications are judged on. The Merit Review Committee, which is formed during the grant announcement and grant application window, is to contain no fewer than 3 members. In addition to the strength of their applications, reviewers assess whether applicants are registered in GATA, whether they are pre-qualified by the time of the grant application window closes, whether the applicant matches the eligibility outlined in the NOFO. They will also verify if required documents have been signed, included in the package, and submitted before the stated deadline. The merit review process must be based entirely on the criteria outlined in the NOFO. This information is included in the NOFO to ensure transparency and to give applicants a full picture of how their application will be assessed. Applicants who receive the highest scores are those who have successfully demonstrated a full understanding of the grant program and what is required of them as a grantee. They will have produced a strong program narrative that paints a clear picture of their plan for the program, demonstrating their capacity to successfully implement and monitor the program, and those who have provided a detailed budget proposal. It is important to note that the merit review process can take months to complete. Some grant programs will collect only a dozen applicants, whereas others will draw hundreds. Because of this, and because a review entails not only assessing the narrative, but also reviewing the eligibility of each individual applicant, the process does take time. Once the review process has concluded and awards have been determined, all applicants will be notified. This means whether you have been selected to receive an award or not, you will be contacted once the review is complete. Rest assured, you will be kept up to date on decisions and when they are made. Applicants who have been selected for the award will be contacted via email with a Notice of State Award or NOSA. They are then instructed to access the GATA Grantee Portal to accept the NOSA. This is the first building block in the development of a formal grant agreement. A grant agreement is a contractual agreement between a grantor or funding entity and a grantee or the recipient of grant funding. This agreement outlines in detail the parameters, requirements, and expectations of both the grantee and the grantor. This document contains everything you need to know about your grant. The grant agreement is built upon the intent of the grant program and is informed by factors that emerge within the grant application process or review process. Evaluation of risk assessments, organizational structure, and track record help build the foundation of the grant agreement, having identified and mitigated any potential weaknesses. It is imperative that the grantees thoroughly review the grant agreement and use it as a reference when implementing a grant program. It can take months to fully draft and execute a grant agreement. Useful tips and resources. When you decide to apply for a grant, you should not wait until the last minute to get started. Grant applications can be lengthy and require documentation, detailed information, budget proposals, and a concrete plan to support your objective. They also require your entity be pre-qualified, which has several steps and can be a lengthy process. Do not submit application materials via email. On rare occasions, another format for submission, such as through the mail, may be required. Section D of the NOFO will dictate the method of document submission. Most of DCEO grants are submitted via Smartsheet form. The deadline outlined in the NOFO is a hard deadline, meaning that if the deadline is May 31st, 2025 at 5 p.m., applications submitted at 5:01 will not be accepted. If the grant opportunity has a technical assistance session, it is important to attend. If you're unable to attend the technical assistance session, you should make plans to watch the session recording and review the slide deck. Starting early leaves enough time to have questions answered by the program contact. Making time to complete your application early, and don't rush the process. Be as detailed and thorough as possible. So our team here at DCEO is happy to offer resources in multiple formats. We offer monthly virtual trainings for potential and current grantees. On the first Wednesday of the month, we take a close look at pre-qualification and what that entails. Whether you've attended a training before or it's your first time, this training session serves as a great starting off point in your grant journey. On the third Wednesday of the month, our team provides a training on one of the rotating list topics related to grants within DCEO. From audits to compliance, we take the time to review important facets of the grant process with aspiring grantees and are available to answer questions and provide resources. We host weekly office hours. They're held virtually. This informal session invites potential grantees and current grantees to join us as we answer questions and share our resources. These are Tuesdays from 2 to 3 p.m. Whether you have a question in mind or not, you're welcome to sit in and hear from others about their experiences. We are also proud to offer our grantee resource page, which has been continuously developed over the last year to offer up-to-date information. Here you can review upcoming grant opportunities. You can browse our video and training resource library, and you can sign up for future training opportunities. And finally, if you navigate to GATA, their page, they have a resource page as well. And it has important items that further explain the grant cycle process. And you can also find the UIS training portal there. To contact us or for our assistance, please reach out to our help desk at ceogranthelp@illinois.gov. You can also fill out the help desk inquiry form. And it's at the link in the chat. Thank you for joining us today. I'm going to now stop sharing my screen and I will open it up for questions, and I'll take a look at the chat and see if we had any questions.
Robin, I had a private question to me that I thought was a good question for the group. So I can read that out for you. So the question is, do we need to complete a new mandatory disclosure and conflict of interest disclosure for each application, or can these be completed annually?
I believe it's with each application. Correct me if I'm wrong.
That's correct.
Yeah, I believe it's with each application that you need to submit this, because obviously things can change in the meantime. You know, your business address could change, your contact entity can change. You could have new people brought on board that you didn't have previously that need to reflect whether there's a conflict there, that sort of thing. So it's with every application. Let me go through real quick. Yes, these slides will be sent out with a recording later. I think, Caitlin, thank you very much for your help today in the chat. You're amazing.
Thank you. I got a couple more in there, Robin, and I can read them to the group. Give me 1 second. It says, can you please repeat what the Tuesday event was about and the details for office hours?
Sure, yeah. Tuesdays from 2 to 3 p.m. we host weekly office hours. During that time, our group gets online on a WebEx and we will answer questions kind of like in a round robin sort of style about basic grant topics, pre-qualification. We kind of walk you through the NOFO again. We cover just general grant information. If it's kind of program specific, we can help you find the contact for that program so that you can reach out to them, that sort of thing. And did you have any others?
I do. So our organization currently receives a DCEO grant. Can we apply for other multiple grants?
Yes. Unless the specific NOFO tells you that there are certain programs that won't qualify. So for example, yesterday we had this issue with the match programs and the federal match, the SBIR match program and the federal assistance program. If you qualify for one, you won't qualify for the other, but you can technically qualify for multiple grants at the same time through DCEO. It just depends on the grant program.
And to follow up with the office hours question from before, I did put the link to sign up for trainings in the chat. So if you haven't signed up for office hours yet, please go ahead and use that link and sign up.
Great. How will we know if the grant has a technical assistance session? Okay, this is, I can show you real quick. Let me pull it up. That's a good question. Give me 1 second. Okay. So if you're looking at my screen, you can see that I've gone to the DCEO grant funding opportunities page. If you look at one of these, let's just randomly pick one. You're going to go to the summary page. And if you scroll down here, you're going to see technical assistance session. It's going to tell you whether there's one offered, if you are mandatory required to attend, the date and the time and the registration link. And generally that'll come back here on this page and post the recording if you missed the technical assistance session. Okay.
There was one other question, Robin, which is how do I obtain a FEAN? And I put the link to the IRS website in the chat. So Lisa, if you want to visit the irs.gov, that's where you will sign up to get your FEAN.
Awesome. Thank you, Caitlin. Okay, so I think we are through the chat. Does anybody have a hand up? Anybody have a question that they want to ask the group? Oh, is it possible to have a fully executed grant agreement even without a notice of state award? No. You will always receive a notice of state award in your GATA account because you're going to have to accept the NOSA before your grant agreement will be executed, or even the process begins to develop the grant agreement. You'll have to accept the NOSA. What's the link to the page that you just shared? That is the DCO grantee opportunity page. Let me copy and put that in there for you. It's also up further in the chat, but that's just DCO's grantee opportunities page. Okay, I think we've covered everybody. Does anybody?
One final question. Can you combine documents when they exceed more than 10?
Yes, you can. In PDF form, you can put multiple documents into one PDF. Unless, well, I'm going to say unless the program contact or the program specifically states otherwise. And that would be a question that when that arises, you should reach out to that program contact and ask them specifically, or check out their fact sheets or technical assistance sessions, because they'll generally describe in there how they want their documents combined. You can also review the NOFO in there, and it'll tell you how they want their documents submitted in the format. Anything else? Going
I've got one more, Robin. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
It says, how do I update changes in the organization in the GATA portal?
You would go to your GATA account. Let me see if I can get there real quick. Okay. So your GATA account is here at grants.illinois.gov/portal. You're going to go to grantee sign in once you've created your account, right? You're going to sign into your account, and then when you want to edit your organization information, you're going to click here on edit. And this is how you would change like your SAM.gov number, all of your information here. Once you're done changing it, make sure you hit save. You can change your indirect cost rate here. Here's where you would click on to review your audit information. And where else? Yeah, I believe that's it. If you are the organization's primary person, you would be able to also, manage your contacts. You can select here and manage like how you want that person's roles identified. Whether they can accept things, what kind of access type they're going to have. I hope that helped. Can you add more than one person of contact? Caitlin?
Yes, you can.
Yes. John seems with hand. Just wanted to say thank you for these training. Oh, thank you, John. Thank you for that. That's a very nice compliment. Anybody else? Did I miss anyone? Want to make sure everybody understands and thorough. Okay. Well, you guys were a great audience. Thank you very much. And thank you, Caitlin, for your assistance. I appreciate it. Have a great day, everybody.